you know maps. That's excellent. Like, we need someone like you. And I did get comments like how I look is not compatible with the role I have. I mean, I don't blame her. I blame her husband. The world is unfair. Like, why is it like this?
Hello guys, my name is Tiljara and welcome to the new podcast episode of Talent Boost podcasts. And today's topic is Women in Tech. And I want to introduce our guest today, who is Jaka. She is a ICT student in Jamk and she also works in IT company in Finland. So please welcome Jaka.
Hi.
Hello.
Thank you for having me, Tiljara. As you said, my name is Jaka. I'm originally from Croatia. I moved to Finland like 3 years ago because of a Finnish boy. And I've been studying ICT since 2022. And I've actually relatively recently started working. Up until like last summer, I was unemployed. So yay. Found a job.
Nice job.
I'm also, I guess that's also a bit rare in Finland.
Yeah,
for
can be for international.
Yeah, for a student and an immigrant. But yeah, I work currently in a local company here in Jyvaskyla. My official title is Customer Success Specialist, which is a very broad term. And what I do is I handle customer data and import it into our systems and clean it and do other kinds of data analysis techniques.
Thank you for deciding to join today. And I think I would love to ask you, what was the initial spark that kind of inspired you to come to IT industry?
So I actually, my background is in geography. So I have a master's in geography. So I kind of already come from like a science point of view.
Mm-hmm.
And GIS, which is Geographic Information Systems, have always been like a strong point in geography. And that was kind of my first interest, let's say, that like of IT, although I always had this kind of idea that IT is for someone else, like it's always boys and men, and I didn't see myself there, and I think there was a bit prejudice and stereotypes on my side that I wasn't aware of, and I kind of just thought like, that's not for me, like I'm not that kind of person. But then in my last job, I got this very interesting data analytics project to do. And I really enjoyed it, and it went beyond what I know, like how to deal with spatial data and using different GIS tools, where I actually had to like do some Python and stuff. So it was really interesting and fun, and I enjoyed it so much that it was the first time I genuinely thought like, maybe I could like actually do this. Like this could be a job, maybe, a better paid one, hopefully. And my fiance actually was the one who encouraged me to maybe start the studies, especially after moving to Finland and I couldn't find a job. So studies seemed like a logical first step kind of to make that career happen.
It's so interesting that you have like completely different background in the beginning and like geography, and now you're in IT. It's really interesting, I think, path for you, and
it is, and I think I like to tell myself I'm lucky that I have this background in geography, just because geography is so broad of a science, and I'm grateful that it's also using some kind of information system tools to kind of do that science. So I'm kind of grateful that I had that kind of like beginner in like very slow intro into that world of data and computers and different systems, how they communicate together, databases and whatnot. So I think that was kind of nice. And I always think of my professor. He was later my mentor, and he always told us like GIS is the only way to go, like in geography. Like you can't do anything without GIS, which is funny because he's like 70 years old, probably doesn't use the computer, but he was very vocal. And I always think of him mainly because a lot of us were very, we weren't happy with those courses because they were hard, but it was worth it in the end to kind of focus on that, especially because my job now, I got it mainly because of geography, which I find funny a bit because I was going there with like an attitude, I'm an IT student, I have so much to offer. And they were like, oh, you know maps, that's excellent. Like we need someone like you. And it was just so random.
That's really, I think, nice. But I don't think that is only luck. I think it's also the effort that you put. And now I would love to ask the next question. What are the top skills that are needed in IT right now?
I strongly think that is debatable and very specific to an area you want to like specialize in. IT is currently in virtually everything, like from healthcare to I don't know, education. Like you can't really go on without it to a point. So it really depends on what your interests are, your strengths, like what are you passionate about. When it comes to technical skills, I wouldn't even know where to begin, but I would say like learning some kind of code is like the basic, and that is also debatable which language to learn. So it's really depends on an area. But I would say maybe soft skills are the thing that is kind of lacking from a lot of people, and I think makes a big difference when you are applying for a job, when you're in an interview. I think having good soft skills, learning how to kind of sell, not just yourself, but anything is a big plus, and kind of showing the right kind of attitude for the team you want to work for, because I think that's important. Like the kind of energy you bring to the table, it's a huge deal breaker for a lot of people. And overall, I would say patience. Having abundance of patience is it's a very good thing in IT, because whatever task you end up doing, it's going to take a long time. You're probably going to fail a million times. You're not going to know why. And you're still going to have to end up explaining yourself. So it's a lot of patience and kind of like taking care of yourself that's always a good thing. Good thing to have.
What is the most annoying thing for you, like at your industry or job? If you can say it, of course.
I wouldn't necessarily call it annoying as much as it's like kind of a necessary evil. Like I work with a lot of data every day, and I see all kinds of data that is being delivered to us, and the clients, like the people that deliver it, they usually don't know what the hell that is, and then they just go like, here's this, make it into this, and they just expect it to happen. And the data is usually not the best quality, so I have to do extra, like, there's more cleaning to do, or more like researching what can be done with it. And I just find it annoying how like I find myself feeling like, oh, I don't know enough, or like I'm not good enough for this, and then someone who is above me delivers something that is very not up to like quality and expects magic to happen. I'm always like, yeah, the world is unfair. Like, why is it like this?
What challenges do you face at your job, and what do you think like female employees face in IT industry in general?
I would say that there's still some like bias and stereotypes about what IT is and what IT people look like. I feel like people are more aware now, so it's easier to talk about it and kind of easier to bring up any problems you might have, but it's still a very ingrained problem. So I feel like I would say that like the main problem would maybe be like fighting these stereotypes, but not like fighting. I don't mean like, you know, raising revolutions or whatever. We don't have time for that, but more like going against the stereotypes. So I often get like, I was fortunate enough that I didn't get directly like discriminated as far as I know, like directly. But I did get overall in my like working life and studying, I did get comments like how I look is not compatible with the role I have. Like I should look a certain way because like, you know, then people will take you seriously. Like just, I mean, if you look at like general like stereotype for a girl who is also a coder, it's usually like a very specific. But yeah, I think that's mostly because it's so like you won't be taken seriously kind of attitude, where you need to behave a certain way and be into certain things. Like if you're not a gamer, then how can you be in IT? You know, classic stuff. Or like, oh, you don't do projects every weekend or go to hackathons every weekend. Like, oh, how can you be considered a coder? Like, yeah, because I want to do other stuff. Like, so.
Yeah, I think that everyone should have their own choice how they want to look like, and not like basing on how the society wants them to be. So yeah, I think that this is such a great point to mention. And basically, I think there is still kind of, you know, judgment maybe that I don't know, in IT it seems like people don't take women seriously as much as men, and they think like, oh yeah, like you're a girl, like you can do that, it's a hard job, for example. I think everyone has their own choice to study what they like, to dress how they like, and there should be no judgment. And I think like there has been so many changes in past 10 years. So I would love to ask, like, do you think that there has been a dynamic change between the job roles for women in, I don't know, 10 years before and now? Like, do you think there was any change, and was it in negative way or was it in positive way for women?
That is a very big question to ask anyone. I certainly don't consider myself an expert in women's studies other than by being a woman and experiencing life every day. I would say, like, first of all, it's hard for me to talk about Finland in that way because obviously I've been here for 3 years. I have seen like some good and bad examples of, you know, women in Finland. Generally very good, very equal. But like thinking just of my home country in Croatia, I would say that things are better a bit now. Like I said earlier, just like the conversation changed. So like people are more direct about what the problem is. There's no like gently nudging the men into the topic. It's mostly like just facing the facts of like women are having these problems. There's inequality on different levels. I think that also women kind of gained more in a sense of like opportunities, but I don't think they necessarily won much with that. Because we still get paid less, so we do more, get paid less. So that's kind of a funny thing that happens. And I don't think Corona necessarily helped, because it just kind of put an accent to all of those problems and made maybe people more frustrated. And not just women, I think men also, because I'm one of the, I belong to the group of people who think that women's issues are also men's issues, because we all live on this world together, can't have one without the other. So I feel it's also frustrating for men to kind of accept some things and just put themselves in our shoes, kind of, in that sense. But of course, because nobody wants to admit that they've been unconsciously biased or unconsciously stereotyping anyone. Nobody wants to admit that, but it's I think it's positive in a sense that we can now have those conversations and it's more taken more seriously.
Yeah, I think, well, for me, I can speak up for 10 years ago because I think I'm too young for that. But what I've seen is that comparing the jobs that women would go in 10 years ago and now, I think they changed quite a lot. And I see more and more women, at least around me, who want to do some things that they would in 10 years before they would not consider to do. And I think now I see more and more females in the IT industry and being engineers and all of these jobs that are considered men jobs, hard jobs that women can do. And I really like that I see this positive trend that now these conversations are brought up to the table and that more and more women have opportunities, I think, in IT. I remember I participated in STEM project when I was in high school, and I was so great that I had this chance to kind of code a bit, but it wasn't a real coding. It was just Arduino thing where I programmed, I think, robot car or something. Yeah, nice. But I was just I don't know. At that time, I was thinking, yeah, I'm going to be this IT girl and everything. But something has changed because I was I don't have patience for this codings and everything. But yeah, I'm really glad that this is changing in a good way.
Yeah, I agree. I agree that there's definitely more representation.
Yeah, and you mentioned about COVID that it didn't even help at all. I think it even made it worse because I remember I was reading the article. I don't remember. I think it was a Harvard Business Review, and basically they researched that during COVID, women were more vulnerable than compared to men because basically everyone was stuck at home and all jobs were switched to online, and so it meant that parents supposed to be at home with their children. I think it mostly affected women who are also mothers because they had little children that they also need to take care of while also working. And mostly it said in the article that mostly children tend to come closer to their mothers to ask something oh, I want to eat, I want this and this, and every time they would kind of be distracted from their main job, so they can't focus fully on their job. And also sometimes in some countries women are taking care of house, and they need to cook food and they need to clean and everything, and while they're working. And it was such a pressure for women during COVID, and I think that's also kind of an issue that's maybe not really visible for some people.
Yeah, I mean it happens within Zoom meetings. I mean I know from personal experience, I worked the worst beginnings of Corona, the first few months. I was actually working in Croatia, and my colleague, she had 2 young boys, and every Zoom meeting, it was just, they took forever, mainly. I mean, I don't blame her. I blame her husband, but well, mostly because like she was in a business meeting during working hours, and the kids kept like barging in to the room and asking her things, like climbing all over her, and we all knew her husband is also at home, so it's kind of like, where is he? Like, why isn't he? And then like, I thought it was a very strange look into her private life that maybe I didn't necessarily need to see even, like that's her own private stuff, but it comes up even during work so that everyone is kind of aware of the dynamic. And I think that's also a problem because there's it kind of blurred the private and the career part.
Yeah.
And it's kind of unnecessary because obviously it puts her in a very bad situation where she needs to explain herself and feel bad, even though she shouldn't feel bad. Like it's just the way it is. So
I think many people, not just women, but women more, kind of lost this separation between private personal life and work life, and it's just mixed up all together, and it was so hard to deal with. And I think next question, maybe last one, I would love to ask, are there any differences between Finnish working environment and working environment in Croatia?
Yes, a lot. I also had the opportunity to work in an IT company in Croatia as well, in sales, and again, still different, even like compared to Finnish IT environment. The culture is a bit different, so obviously there would be some like differences. I feel like there's more boundaries in Finland. Like nobody is gonna call me now from work, even if the office was on fire. I wouldn't know probably, like, because it's such a strong culture of not calling after work, like sticking to the schedule that was agreed upon, and like respecting other people's like off time, which news for me, like compared to my previous work where just like there were no borders and no like boundaries anywhere, which is not good. I don't recommend ever. And I think like in general, like the care for the employees is much higher here. I feel like the system, the way it works here with the unions and different kinds of unions and special contracts that you do, I think it kind of gives you a layer of protection that maybe doesn't exist in Croatia, just from the point of view of exploitation, or just if you have any general problem with your workplace, like health-wise or whatever. I think it's much better in that sense. Like you always have someone to talk to, someone to turn to. But again, I've only had my one job in Finland, so I cannot speak that it's the same in every company. Obviously, it can differ. Like, I can only say that the company I work for is great. Not just because they'll probably listen, but also because it's true.
Okay. Do you want to stay in Finland in the future?
Yeah, so that's the plan, the goal. Hopefully it will go according to that.
Yeah. I'm still like, we have discussed it before, but I'm still like trying to imagine like Croatia is such a like nice vacation place. Like there's sun and everything. There's water you can swim in, pretty places, and then you're moving like to Finland and basically you mostly don't have sun. I don't know, like I feel like it's so hard for people who are coming from such like sunny places to move like to Finland. But yeah, I agree about the opportunities that Finland offers. I think Finland is one of the best countries that has this opportunities for kind of work-life balance and human rights and basically like protection, as you mentioned, that this unions for employees and everything.
But also just planning for the future. There's this stability in Finland that I think even people that live here their whole lives, so Finnish people, I don't think they realize how it is to grow up in a stable country.
Yeah.
Like it's a bit refreshing, like to be able to plan normally for your future, not having like panic attacks every time you near the end of the month and your paycheck as well. So it's kind of like I mean, I often get comments even back home and questions like, why did you leave? Will you come back? How can you live there? There's no sun, the usual stuff.
Yeah,
But it's like I had this huge burden and it was lifted off of me because I can now like have a normal job, balanced life. I can plan. I can have a normal savings account that I could actually use one day to, I don't know, buy a house. I don't know, like, you know, it's just this stability is kind of like that was the key for me. I mean, I love the sun, I love my country, but yeah, it's not in the best place at the moment.
Okay. I think that is all. And I want to say, like, to sum up everything and conclude that, first of all, I'm really great that you have joined us today. And I think you mentioned quite important and valid points about challenges that women are facing. And I'm glad that you shared your experience about working in an IT company in Finland and in Croatia. And I think that you are such a bright, sunny person that makes like everyone laugh around yourself. And
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm really glad to know you as a person, and I wish you best of luck. And guys, thank you for watching us today. Please don't forget to follow our social media and keep in mind that there are a lot of open positions coming via our social media channels that we post. So if you didn't read newsletters where you can find it, please read them. And thank you for listening us today. I wish you all a great day or evening, and bye.
Bye.